Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Today I Learned. Today we're going to sharpen a carving gouge. This is a number 5 sweep, 20mm gouge, and that on the handle you can see it says 5/20, and that's what it means. We're going to go ahead and flatten the stone like we did in the previous videos. One thing before we start, when we sharpen carving chisels, we want to maintain that angle. We don't want to be putting micro bevels on it, because eventually you're going to keep putting micro bevels on there and lose the primary, and then you're going to end up having a blunt gouge. It'll still probably carve, but it won't carve very well. So I usually take the stone and I put it perpendicular to myself, and I can rock back and forth and not change anything. I want to make sure that my wrist is locked, and I kind of sway, and if I do move anything, it's going to be kind of my elbow, and it's just to get that side to side motion. So I keep my middle finger pressed to keep the bevel down and not have it move at all. Then I rock back and forth. I usually do a couple sweeps to see if I'm getting it, and it looks like I am. But we're going to keep doing this until we get a small burr on the inside of the gouge like we would with any other chisel. And that just means that we got rid of the old blunt edge, and now we have a new one. So after 1,000 grit stone, you know, it's sharp, and then the following stones kind of polish it up. I'm just checking for a small burr, and there isn't, so I'll just keep going until I get one. Sometimes it can take a little bit to get a burr on a carving chisel, but once you do, it's worth it. Looks like I got one. And I use a 4,000 grit slipstone. It's got a real small end, and then it's got a fatter end. So I use that fat end, and I kind of start one end and then sweep it across, and then I'll go the other way and then sweep it across just to get rid of that burr. The inside of it needs to be nice and polished, just like the bottom. And carving chisels generally have a really acute angle. I think these are maybe between 12 and 15 degrees, as opposed to like my bench chisels are at 30, between 25 and 30 degrees. So after we got that all, the burr moved and 1,000 grit stone done, we're going to move on to a 5,000 stone, and this is just going to be refining the edge, and we're going to go ahead and refine it all the way to 8,000 grit stone. So the chisel's sharp at this point, but it can be sharper, so that's why we refine it, and we want to get the edge to be like a mirror. Same thing with the previous stone. I'm going to go ahead and put the chisel down, feel with my finger, and once it's flat, I'll start polishing it. It looks like that I got a nice polish on there. All I did there was get the stone a little wet from the water that was left on the 5,000 stone. So a little burr popped up. I'm just removing it. I did use 1,000 grit slipstone, but I found that the 4,000 works a little bit better, and that's easier to get marks out. So the key thing about doing a carving chisel is maintaining that bevel angle and not putting little tiny micro bevels on there, because you will change that angle and it won't carve. Especially when you get in difficult and harder woods, you want to make sure your chisels are sharp. And same process as I don't press very hard with this. I just kind of go back and forth until we get a nice polish. Generally, you won't get a burr here. You can see that it's really nice and polished. We're going to remove the whetstone materials, and we're going to go ahead and leather strop this. You're not always going to have to take your carving chisel to a stone. Most of the time you can get away with leather stropping instead of sharpening. I usually only take it to the stone if I've used it a lot, or if I've got a chip in it. And when you get a chip in one of these gouges, it does take a little bit of work, and I'll start usually with a coarser grit stone and work my way all the way up. As in the previous videos, I just added green and red compound to the leather strop. And this is a little jig I made. It has various sized dowels, and I planed off the bottom and then crazy glued it on, or CA glue, and then cut leather strips and wrapped them around the dowel. But I'll go ahead and focus on the bevel itself, and I kind of work in a sweeping motion until I'm satisfied with how it looks, and then I'll go ahead and refine it to the rouge with the rouge. And it takes off material. That little bit of black that's in the middle there is actually metal. Just takes off very, very thin amounts. But just keep going until you get a nice polish, and you'll see. It's always nice when you look at it and it's nice and mirror-like. So start off 1,000, you can get it polished up pretty quick. So I was talking about doing the inside of the gouge. It's just as important. So I just rock it back and forth, pull back and forth rather, until it's polished on the inside. This one's relatively flat, so I kind of got to work it around the largest dowel that I have in there. But just keep pulling back and forth until it's nice and polished, and then you'll be all set. I don't really have a set amount of times that I should pull. I just do it until I look at it and I'm satisfied. It looks like I am, and we'll just go ahead and test it out, see how sharp it is. I just use a piece of paper to see if the chisel's sharp, and it looks like it is. Hope this video helps you guys out. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more videos. I appreciate it, and good luck with your woodworking adventure.